All right. Let's see. We should, in theory, be live, and there should be audio. I have it in front of me here. Let's see. Perfect. All right. So, wait a minute for people to pop in, and I'll probably also be modding people as well. Hey, I am live. Sweet. First time live, and the setup's a little rough, so it's working though. That is the important part. So the first thing we should probably do is mod people. Yeah? Audio sounds good? Good. Glad to hear. Hey, Desert. Let's see. Now I have to figure out how to mod people live. So that's fun. Live. Not much, man. How are you doing, Miller? Yeah. So we're live. We can talk about basically anything. Obviously, first off, 30,000 subscribers, which is very cool. That was one of my goals for 2021, and it's pretty early in 2022, so we ended up making it close. Let's see here. All right. I should be able to mod some people, just in case. No, it's not made for kids. Customization. It's probably in here. Edit moderators. Probably edit moderators. Audio still better than 80% of live streamers? Well, it's funny. So I have a microphone like right here off camera that's literally just hooked up to my wife's cell phone. So it's draped over a beam up top too. So it's like a 10-foot long cord. But it's working. High-pitched whine, that is probably the space heater right next to me because it's very cold in here. But if that's a problem, I can also just turn it off. Did that fix it? Super hype for the Mark Pro line coming up. Yeah, so we're going to be doing a line of slightly more expensive upper receivers based off of like Roscoe barrels and Roscoe bolt carrier groups, because I did finally get set up as a dealer for them. All right, stream customization. Moderators. Hidden users. Let's see. Add moderators. Okay, I fixed it. Okay, sweet, perfect. 13.9, I was actually planning on doing 13.7s to start. 13.7s with an option for the Sons of Liberty Gunworks Knox, which would legally pin and weld it to a 16-inch as an option. You can get it with just a 13.7 or with a 13.7 in the pin and weld. The pin and weld is just going to be an extra $100 because that's literally what it costs me to get the Knox. So not going to be too bad. Operator, it is not going to be $750. It's not going to be $650. It's not going to be $550. It's actually going to be $500. So it'll be $100 over the regular mark line, but you are going to be going with a higher quality barrel, a little bit more accurate. It's their stainless steel barrel because we are going to go with their purebred 13.7s. So I think we're going to call it like the Recce Pro. And then again, it'll start at $500. And if you want the Sons of Liberty Gunworks Knox, it'll be $600 just because it cost me $100 to get that muzzle device. And then the pin is basically free. So. Oh, it's cold out here, but it's not too bad. That's why I'm wearing a sweatshirt. This is where I work about 10 hours when I can. Let's see. Need some steel targets. Yeah, I wish. The price never ever really came down on steel, so it's still like double what it used to be. So if I could do steel, maybe. But again, it was also like 3 times as much work for half the profit or even just half the revenue as what I'm doing now with upper receivers. So it's a hard sell to go back to it. It's so much work to do steel. But never say never. It could totally happen. Picked up a Glock carry comp and BCA Gen 19 a few weeks back. Great combo. Okay, glad to hear it. Yeah, I did a video on that really inexpensive KT Crafts carry comp, and it works great. And I still carry it every day. So it's very, very nice, simple, very nice, simple setup. Fair to assume we're still using the AO Precision BCGs, not on the Pro line. And I actually also got set up as a Toolcraft distributor. So we might be going with a Toolcraft BCG. We might be doing, I want to keep it very simple, so I don't want to have different product lines. Like, I don't want to have a million different options because that just makes it more complicated for me. And then I have to manage inventory on everything. So what I will probably end up doing is going with like a Toolcraft nickel boron or a titanium nitride and just making that the standard on every upper receiver. So right now we are doing AO Precision BCGs just because they're an unbeatable value, but maybe on the next run or the next run after that, it's going to switch to a standardization of like a Toolcraft BCG. So whatever that ends up being. Not much, Callie. How you doing? Losing weight, maybe a little bit, like 10 pounds, but I might look a little better because I've been working out a lot more. I've had a lot more time to actually get back into working out full time, um, just with job changings and stuff like that. So watch your primary arms MD20 versus the Romeo. The MD20, it's a great little red dot. I think my problem with it is that it's $50 more expensive than the Romeo 5 and doesn't really do anything better than the Romeo 5. So from a value perspective, it's kind of like whatever. But if you have it and you like it, great, awesome. You know, it did really well in my drop tests. Held up really well. The design is really good. I didn't have any problems with the dot or the glass or glare like I have with some other optics. But you know, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Toolcraft, yeah, Toolcraft makes excellent stuff. They make great stuff, and I want to go with something a little bit nicer than just your standard nitride or the phosphate chrome is great. It is a true mil spec coating, but I want to kind of set myself apart a little bit. And so by offering my basic Mark series and kind of something like a nickel boron or titanium nitride, you know, just as a standardization, and it kind of sets you apart from the rest of the pack, especially for the add-on features that I'm doing with the rest of the builds. Yeah, operator. I don't know what handguard I'm going to go with on the Pro Series. That's actually the last part that I need to figure out what I'm doing with it. But other than that, the Pro Series is going to come next, along with an AR-10 upper receiver that's also not quite finalized. So here's the thing. When I'm set up as a Toolcraft dealer, the cost for their nickel boron BCGs is about the same as what I'm paying for other people's phosphate and nitride BCGs. So I could definitely keep it the same price point of $400 for the Mark series. Because again, I also don't want to increase the price. I don't want to just keep going up. You know, every 6 months it's 450, then 500, then 600, and then you're like every other manufacturer on the planet, and you sell a decent valued upper, but it's nothing special. And I do like to keep, you know, I like to have good value stuff. That's what I review on the channel. That's what I like to bring to you guys. So if I can't keep it a good value, I won't make it. But on the basic Mark line, if I can do it with the Toolcraft nickel boron and keep the price point at $400, I mean, it's going to be an unbelievable value. Minutes and mils. Hey, what's up? Not much. I prefer minutes though, personally. So. KE Arms KP15. That is the full polymer A2 style, right? It's over there. No, it's on the other side. A2 style lower receiver, right? It's fine. I think I saw somebody broke one, which I've heard that they were pretty good actually in terms of their durability. But I think they were charging like $100 for them without the parts completion kit, which honestly isn't a bad deal. So, you know, if you like that sort of thing, super lightweight. I think that they had the A1 length of stock, which is a little bit shorter, a little more comfortable for most people. Could be good if you're into that sort of thing. Who is making the A2 upper that is good? Not sure. Callie says, sucks about the 515 GM. Seems to be okay. Yeah, so that's what I've heard. So after I made that video, there was like 20 people that agreed with me that theirs were terrible and had issues all the way through, basically. And then there were people that defended the 515 GM and got very upset about that video because theirs have worked just fine. Now, again, everything that I test, it's in my lighting conditions, in my shooting scenarios, on my guns, with my eyes. So if I have a problem with something, you got to take all that sort of stuff into account. So for the red dots that I have tested, the 515 GM, and again, my scenarios that I do all of my shooting in, has the worst glare out of any red dot. A very, very bad amount of glare. And again, my specific 515 GM. Other people have reported great things about it, which is awesome. But again, I'm not going to tell you that mine did great just because other people said that theirs did great when mine did not. So I do have a differing opinion or experience than most other people. It could be a fluke, but again, Hollow Sun did actually look at that red dot and say that it was fine, so could just be me. But I also showed you guys pictures and videos, and again, my specific lighting conditions where I shoot. So, you know, if you like it, you like it. And again, what's most important is that it works for you and what you're doing. Because it really, if something doesn't work for me, but it works for you, then my opinion on it really doesn't matter at all. Again, if it's actually working for you and what you need it for. What are your thoughts on 3D printing guns? I think plastic 3D printing for firearms and something that takes stress right now really sucks. But overall, it's a good idea. 3D printing metal is going to be really cool. People are starting to make like suppressors and other parts out of 3D printed metal. And so when that sort of stuff comes to the main firearm industry, I think you'll see some really cool designs in terms of like receivers and lowers and stuff like that. But that will take some time for sure. Okay. Any PCCs anytime soon? Probably not. Not because I don't like PCCs, but if I'm doing like an AR-15, so it'd be an AR-9 upper receiver, there's just nothing really special about them. I mean, Arrow has their EPC-9, which is it's still just basically just a blowback, you know, AR-9. So maybe, but it's not really something that I'm all that into. I think they're fun to shoot, but I'm not sure if I would push like my main Mark series back a little bit to do a PCC right now. Though in the future, probably. Have you tried SB's HB brace with any of your uppers? Or if so, were the results favorable? I have not tried the HB brace whatsoever, so I can't speak on that. A lot of dudes are broken. I have the best cinematography. Well, thank you. You know, we try hard. I don't really have any training specifically in that regard. I just try and make something that looks good. And sometimes it comes out really good. Sometimes it comes out not so good. All right. Let's see. Space Caesar, your message got banned for a second. I had to approve that. Okay. Oh, so operator, yeah, if you're left-handed and I'm saying, oh, I don't need a ambidextrous charging handle, but you're left-handed, yeah, you probably want an ambidextrous charging handle. Totally get that. So, but again, yeah, I don't know. It's not something that I offer because again, 80% of people don't need it. But if you do need it and you want something specific, I can probably hook you up. So 512 versus the UH1. They're completely different optics. The 512, or wait, are we talking about the Holosun 512 or the EOTech 512? Because the Holosun 512 is a red dot. It's a large emitter, large window red dot. Just think of it like a red dot. The 512 and UH1 are both holographic, so they have much shorter battery lives. They are advantageous in certain circumstances. The EOTech has excellent glass. However, the 512 does not have night vision settings. The UH1 does have night vision settings, I believe. So the 512s, I've owned two 512s, both excellent, perfect optics for daytime shooting or, you know, low light with a white light, that sort of thing. For value-wise, both of the 512s that I bought for $300 each, and maybe UH1s are around the same price point. So honestly, maybe a UH1 might be a little better. Though again, I haven't really tried that, but I do like 512s quite a bit. The 503G is solid. Probably. What is the 503G? Is that because I know what the R is, I know what the B is. What's the G? But as long as it doesn't have a bad glare problem, it's probably. The UH1 looks cool. Yes, it does look cooler than the 512. So if you're just going off of looks, buy the UH1. Competitions. I have been doing a competition up north in Snoqualmie. I live in Western Washington. Snoqualmie is about 2 hours away. It's more of a slow-paced tactical competition where you're trying to engage targets in a more realistic way and put shots exactly where you want them. Sometimes you're shooting at very small targets from like 20 or 30 yards away. And they're more concerned about you using the exact amount of rounds in the exact correct locations. So it's a more thoughtful process than a speed process. I've done a 3-gun match. I really didn't like it, not because the shooting wasn't fun. The shooting aspect of it was very fun. I hate shotguns in terms of like quad loading and stuff like that. I don't think that's very practical either for like real world scenarios. I would definitely do 2 guns. PRS maybe in the future, but not right now. I don't do enough long range shooting for that sort of thing. Have you heard of the Hoffman stuff? He's doing great work for FDM printing. I have not. So I can't really comment on that. Do you plan to make a 308 soon? Yes, that is actually in the next run of upper receivers. To my right now, I have about $10,000 worth of regular upper receivers, regular Mark line upper receivers. After those sell out to a certain point, we are going to be doing a run of 308 uppers as well as a pro line. And methodical. Not much is going on. How is that trigger coming along? Actually, your trigger's right next to me in this Glock. Let's see. Space Caesar. Good lord, avoid AR9s like the plague. Yeah. AR9s, they're fun. You know, you can't think of them like a serious gun. They're just fun. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. You know? No problems there. My favorite sling. Let's see. I'm missing something. Oh dear, it just yeah. Micro best BCG suck. Oh, I'm sorry, man. That sucks. Failure to feed. What are your magazines and what's the caliber? Favorite sling is probably still the Grove Tech Sentinel. It's actually on the Geisley behind me, the FDE gun in the corner. I'm trying to sell that gun, by the way. People don't really want it. Oh, you're late. You're late by like 5 minutes. Don't worry about it. I'll probably be on here for like an hour or as long as people want to sit around and chat. PSA pistols. I've heard good things. They appear to be a very good value. And I've bought cheap handguns before. I haven't had the greatest luck with cheap handguns. For a carry gun, something that you're going to be using like every day to protect yourself, you know, that's one of those things that I would probably just buy a used Glock for like $300 or $400 and call it a day. But again, for just another gun, like who cares? It's probably a good value for that sort of thing. Why are there 35 people in chat but less than 10 thumbs up? Well, that's because people don't hit the like button. That's fine. Any plans for a quick disconnect upper and folder? Well, I'd have to be using somebody else's system, so it would be very, very expensive. If I was designing something, sure, but not something I do right now. Is the 510C still a viable option? The 510C, we're talking about the Holosun 510C. The 510C has never been a good optic choice. My reasoning for that is if you have a 510C and you love it, that's awesome. But it's an open emitter. It's a really big window open emitter. And I live in the Northwest where it rains a lot and you get snow and all sorts of other things. And on a rifle, I'm just not really down with an open emitter. It's just not something that I think is a great idea overall. So I personally wouldn't buy one. You know, just for a few bucks more, you can get the 512C. So, but for like, I know some people run them in like competitions and stuff like that. Because who cares? You know, it's not like it's a duty use; it's for competition or something like that. And they work really well for that. So, overall, though, I would not buy them. UH1s are hard to get. Yes, they are. Thank you, Denny, for the congrats. Minutes and Mills. My BCA 762x39 upper came with a bunk barrel. Would stick with steel case. Yeah, that sounds like your chamber is either not reamed properly or needs to be opened up just a little bit. That's not fun. Let's see. I actually have on the desk, you can't really see it, but on the desk behind me is a Bear Creek Arsenal 762x39 upper receiver. That is tomorrow's video. And I just posted a video on Instagram today of taking that out to 500 yards with 1 to 4x optic with no holds. That was miserable. Is that the trucker protest horn honking I hear? No, I'm about 1,000 yards from a railroad track. So every 30 minutes or so, you'll hear a train coming by. You need some two-gun stuff. That would be awesome. I would really love to do two-gun stuff. And a big donation, thank you very much, from Mr. Jonathan Fearman. Love the videos, bro. Stay strapped. Thank you, and I do. Need to look into Hoffman Tactical right away. Where's my phone? All right. I will leave myself a note. Space Caesar asks, DPMS pattern, I assume about the AR-10s. Most likely a DPMS pattern, probably a Gen 2. I believe we're going to be going with an Aero Precision upper receiver, and I believe that's what theirs are. So probably it's going to be a DPMS pattern, which is, I think, still the most common. So that's probably what we will go with, just to make sure that it's the most compatible. Let's see. How does the UTG 1-8 compare with the Firefield 1-6 or the SIG MSR 1-6? I'm going to try and be getting a SIG MSR soon enough. Not crazy soon, because my videos take a long time to make. But I will try and get a SIG MSR soon. The 1-8 is almost undoubtedly better than the Firefield. And again, still for like, if you're looking for an LPVO under $200, the UTG 1-8 is still pretty darn good. All right. Another donation from Mr. James Gray. Thank you very much. Edward England says BCA 7.62 or PSA 5.56. Well, in general, you probably always want a 5.56 over a 7.62, especially now that the 7.62 might eventually become harder to find. 7.62 in an AR platform also tends to have more issues. You have more snapped extractors and sheared off extractors just because of the design. So overall, if you're choosing between those two, probably go with the PSA 5.56. Yeah, Minnis Mills came to the same conclusion. Yeah, man, the UH1 has a battery life about the same as a 512C, so if you use it all the time, it's just going to die on you. You know, they just don't have the same lifespan as like an LED-based emitter. It just doesn't happen. You want to off the whole FDE setup or just the upper? Just the upper. I think I'm selling the upper right now, the Geisley upper behind me. I think I have it listed on Arms List for $900 with the Super 42 spring and H3 buffer, because that's the way I prefer to shoot it, so the person who buys it will probably also prefer to shoot it that way. 21st thumb. Well, thank you, sir. What you got into shooting and what got me into? Probably video games to start with. And also, my family has a lot of people like in the military. Like, so my brother's over in Poland right now. I have another older brother who was in the Marines. My father was a Marine back in the Vietnam era. So I've always been around guns. My older brother would always take us shooting. And actually, the first gun I ever bought was a clone of his. I think it was a Smith & Wesson SD9 VE. He had his in .40. And then like 5 years later, after I shot his, once I turned 21 here in the state of Washington, I bought an SD9, which is, of course, a 9mm. Not a great gun. Okay, I think I bought it for under $300, but that kind of got me into it. And then I bought a shotgun, and then I thought about buying a rifle. And then originally I wanted to do like, long range shooting, because, you know, movies or something was like, you want to be like a long range, like, you know, quote unquote sniper sort of thing. And then, you know, it just kind of kept going, and I really enjoyed shooting, and I managed to make it profitable, so now I do it all the time. And in terms of gunsmithing, I just thought about what am I good at, and then translated into how could I make a business off of something that I enjoy doing, and something that I'm good at. So, and it kind of ticks both of those boxes. Brass Facts had issues after 1K rounds with the dagger. That does not surprise me. So Glocks are great, but they do have a couple very small components that, if they're not machined properly, are going to fail faster. So if you take apart, or if you put together a Glock slide, you know that there are quite a few small, very small, tiny components. And when those stuff start to not meld properly or break, because again, they are very small components, you're going to have issues. Any opinions for a 16-year-old trying to get into the gun community? So what do you mean by get into the gun community? Do you mean shooting, or like content creation, or just like joining up with a group or something else like that? I would be glad to help you out. 5.56 and Magpul M3 mags. Toolcrafts. Yeah, Toolcrafts are good. They make good stuff. Oh, damn it. It does this thing where it jumps down like 20 comments and I miss a bunch of stuff. That's sad. Okay, so Miscellaneous Trouble says, see a lot of tools in your 6. What do you recommend for a basic builder? For a basic builder, you're really only going to need a basic armorer's wrench, and what I would recommend is a Wheeler fat wrench. You can find a Wheeler fat wrench, which is basically just a torque wrench, and it comes with a bunch of basic bits that you're going to be using for basically everything on an AR-15, optics, anything else like that. And you can get those for about $50 on Amazon, and then like the UTG, which is a very basic armorer's wrench, but again, it has basically everything that you're going to need in a basic sense. You can get those for under $30. So all of the tools that you need for basic stuff is right at about $80. Not too expensive. Should I sell my VCOG and get one of the 1 to 10s by EOTech? I haven't tried the 1 to 10 by EOTech. Your VCOG does have very good glass. I don't know, man. I am very interested to try out one of the EOTech LPVOs. Not necessarily the 1 to 10, but any of them. But could be good. So Operator has a question about the Roscoe. Roscoe apparently doesn't warranty their barrels with steel case, which is obnoxious. I've had what, 3 or 4 different Roscoe barrels at this point, and they've all done perfectly fine with steel case. My warranty won't be disregarded. So if you burn out a barrel or have an issue with their barrels in one of my pro lines, you'll still have full parts warranty on everything. So I wouldn't worry about that. James Gray has a 450 Bushmaster 18-inch from Bear Creek Arsenal. I have not tried any of their big bore stuff. Not because I don't like that sort of thing for certain applications or just for fun, but because I just don't want to go out and buy the ammo or magazines for it. Message retracted by Recon and Resupplied. Okay. Wanting to sell my 24-inch stainless steel fluted 6.5 Grendel barrel and BCG. Well, that's way too long for a 6.5 Grendel. Yeah, I mean, that's the Space Caesar. That's the hardest part, is getting another caliber. Because then you got to think, okay, I need magazines. I need, the caliber, obviously, several thousand rounds of that. And then you got to think about backup parts. Because like I have, in 20 different guns, I have 20 different BCGs. So if I have a BCG go down, if I have an extractor fail, an ejector fail, something else, I have backup parts everywhere. But if I get one gun in a new caliber, I don't have any backup parts, depending on the parts compatibility. Thoughts on what would Stoner do rifle? What would Stoner do? What would Stoner do? Probably not make a gun out of plastic. That would probably be my guess. Not that he wouldn't use plastics, but yeah. I'm not a big fan of the what would Stoner do rifle. I don't know why. It's kind of a fad online. It's not a real thing that you see a lot of people actually using, of people looking for like 4-pound guns, 5-pound guns, that sort of thing. There's a reason why, military and police forces and that sort of thing don't look into that sort of technology all that much. While yes, you do want a lighter weight gun, the sacrifices and cost increases for the very, very small benefits of shaving off a half-pound most of the time are not worth it, especially in long-term circumstances. So, Triarch 12.5 or Roscoe 12.5. So we're talking about completely different barrels. The Triarch 12.5, is a close to custom end barrel almost. It is a very, very quality barrel with special machining that goes into it. And it's designed to run basically full power 5.56 suppressed or unsuppressed. The Roscoe barrel, while still a very high quality barrel, is kind of a do-it-all barrel. So the Roscoe 12.5 that I had was a little punchy, extremely accurate, very well made, but pretty standard machining. I believe it was just a government profile. So if you're talking about value, the Roscoe. Because the Triarch might be a quarter minute more accurate, but that's really not going to matter all that much. It might be like 5% softer, but when we're talking about a dollar for dollar and actual lifespan, they're probably going to be very, very similar. Swamp Fox Tomahawk or Vortex Strike Eagle. So I like the Swamp Fox Arrowhead line. I don't like their Tomahawk line. It's a little cheaper. It's a little worse. So for my money, the Strike Eagle Gen 2, the 1-6, or the 1-8 are great. Don't get the Swamp Fox Tomahawk. So, yeah. Let's see. What do we got here? Okay, so DL asks about 6.5 Grendel or 6mm arc. The thing I like about 308 is the ammo is very, very, very available. There's tons of American manufacturers of the ammunition, and lots of people have 308. 6.5 Grendel and 6mm arc are a little bit more niche, especially 6mm arc. As time goes on, 6mm arc will probably continue to gain in popularity because it is a pretty good cartridge. And of course, you can fit it in an AR-15, which is quite nice. So I could definitely see a 6 arc in the future as well as a 6 Grendel in the future. We probably will eventually do it all, but I don't really want to get into a territory where I have like a bunch of really, really niche upper receivers, and then none of my general purpose uppers. You know, I kind of want to slowly widen my horizons in terms of what I offer. Minutes and Mill says the 1-6 is really great for 14.5. Yes, it is. I took it out on a 16-inch, but again, basically the same. Out to 550 yards and was able to make first-round impacts with the 1-6. Western says the SD9 VE was his first big caliber gun. Same as well. I believe that was the first gun I bought was the Smith & Wesson SD9 VE. It's okay. You know, not great trigger. That's the only thing bad about it, honestly. Am I excited about the 8.6 Blackout? No. The reason why is because the same reason I'm not excited about any new caliber that's coming out really is because I'm probably not going to be buying it for 2 to 5 years. So I know that there's a lot of hype online about certain things coming out, and people really like to get excited about that sort of thing. I personally don't care. Like, not at all. I'm sure it's cool, but I won't be using it, and so... yeah, just not a big deal to me. Oh dear. BCA is a starter type of build. That is very true. Space Caesar probably. We'll have to get them back in there. So Wambolt says he has a full metal build, under 6 pounds, Faxon 16-inch pencil barrel. How is that pencil barrel? Because I would be curious about its accuracy. That's my only problem with most of that sort of stuff, is you usually are sacrificing a little bit of accuracy. Hop says Tripp's hair is frozen into that shape. So funny story, I have a cowlick up front, obviously, which is why my hair is super weird, and then I have a double crown in the back. So I have a crown going left and then a crown going right in the back. So my hair is, if it's very short, it's very manageable. If it's very long, it's also wavy, looks great. But in this middle area, it looks terrible. So should probably cut it. 6.5 Grendel will gain in popularity sooner than 6mm arc. I kind of doubt that, because 6.5 Grendel, the problem that I have with it is, while it does use a very good bullet, it's too slow. So you're really not getting all that you can get out of a 6.5 bullet at those velocities. You know, with a 6.5, with a good 123 grain like burger, you're only getting like 2,400 FPS at the top end. So you're really not getting enough velocity on it to really do what that bullet is capable of doing. With the 6mm arc with like a 108, you're pushing like 2750. So in terms of a hunting cartridge, in terms of a long-range, flatter shooting, lighter recoiling cartridge, I think the 6mm arc is overall a better option. So A-Hole Gunner says that BCA and PSA have similar style companies. They typically have terrible resale value. Now, I know that some people have had bad experiences with this, and I've had some people tell me that you shouldn't buy cheap guns because you can't resell them and work up to other guns. Now, I would disagree with that, mostly because that's exactly what I've done. So I think every upper that I've bought and sold, I've only lost at most like 10 or 15% on it. So if you really, do your used market selling and you know how to sell something, you're going to lose a little bit of money most of the time, but not that much. So like today, if I bought a BCA upper for 250 and I ran it for 6 months, I could sell it in 6 months for $200, and somebody's going to buy it basically right away. So 6 months for $50, not bad. Yeah, and you can also buy 75 grain OTMs for under $1 right now. So it's kind of hard to justify getting a whole new caliber, even though again the 6mm arc does have some pretty good advantages, which is why I do think it's overall a slightly better caliber than the 6.5 Grendel. Is a 10-inch 5.56 AK any different than a Mark 18? Ballistically, no. The barrel length is the barrel length, right? So those are going to be coming, 55 grain are going to be coming out at like 2550, 2650, depending on the loading, which is just fast enough to get good fragmentation and expansion and not much more. So 10 inches is pretty short. It's very flashy. Now in a piston gun, it's probably a little bit more punchy than like a Mark 18, but overall very, very similar in terms of how effective it is. Let's see. 6.5 Creedmoor. 6.5 Creedmoor is a pretty awesome gun, or an awesome caliber, because again, you're using a 6.5 bullet, but with enough velocity to get most out of what that bullet can do. My brother has a 6.5 PRC, which I believe is like 10% more powerful than that. And the 6.5 PRC is still a pleasant caliber to shoot. It's not punishing whatsoever. The ammo is very expensive. But 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, both very, very good calibers, especially if you're getting into long range shooting and you don't really want to be dealing with a lot of wind. Let's see. 6 arc, just the next 224 Valkyrie? Hopefully not. Hopefully 6 arc kind of sticks around a little bit longer. 224 really did have a really sharp upward trajectory for a minute, and then it kind of died. Because I think they had some problems with like their casing, and they had to like redesign some stuff or something like that. Can you put a 10.5 PSA upper on a Smith & Wesson M&P Sport lower? You can definitely try. I believe it's just mil-spec, though. I know that the M&Ps have some proprietary stuff, like their trigger pins are weird. But overall, I think that should still work. Not sure. Oh, legally? Well, I mean, legally, yeah, maybe not. BCA has to be cutting corners somewhere at that price point. Yeah, definitely. When you're building something to a price point, you have to think about how you get it to that price point. So if you look at like machining on handguards and stuff like that, there's more material there because that is less material they have to remove. So, and there's lots of little ways that BCA gets away with not doing machining. So where I used to work was at a steel manufacturer, not steel manufacturing plant, a steel distributor, I should say. But we also had a machining department with like $4 or $5 million worth of machines, and we would machine parts for a variety of companies. In fact, that company that I used to work for also supplies the 8620 that goes into the Aero Precision bolts. And I believe they're still supplying them with that material, though, again, I'm no longer with that company. But basically, our shop time would be like $200 an hour. So if we had to do like 7 processes on a part, and it would take us, say, 3 minutes to do that, that means we could only do 20 parts an hour if our operator was doing his job perfectly. But if we could cut that operation down to, say, 4 or 5 and maybe do a little bit less machining and leave a little bit more material in certain places, maybe we could crank out another 10 or 15 per hour, which again cuts down that machining time. So if you look at BCA's uppers and you really get into what they do and what they don't do, that is how they are shaving off that much money. Also, they're not buying anything outside of like raw components. So they're not buying components from other companies. They're making it all themselves. So there's basically no markup on a BCA. And then they sell to other companies at a bigger markup, which is how they make most of their money, I would imagine. because that is the advantage of actually being a manufacturer. You can outsource your manufacturing potential to other companies, and they do, and that's where you can make a lot of your money, and then you have your own budget brand kind of as your baseline. Any plans on getting into NVGs? That is a goal for 2022. So I got the Optic for that, which is the EOTech 545, 552. I forget the model number, but this is like my favorite EOTech because it uses the two AA batteries, and it has a lower 1/3 mount built in, so you don't need any sort of riser mount on it. It has night vision settings, and it also has 2.5 times the battery life of every other EOTech. I believe they rate the hours on this one here at 2,500 versus 1,000. So for me, this is going to be my night vision optic. It is a awesome, perfectly clear glass. So that is going to be the baseline. Is going to be the Optic. Then we're going to get a probably a PVS 7 or a PVS 14, because I think what we're going to do is try and do the cheapest night vision setup possible. So it will be a passive setup with like this and again some sort of night vision module, and then we'll also go buy a laser aiming module, something like that later on. So that's my plan for night vision in 2022 eventually. What are your thoughts on the FM15? Seems like the worst of both worlds. That is the self-contained 5.56 from Foxtrot Mike, right? It is a very weird looking gun. And from what I've seen, I love it when people say, oh, this is the smoothest gun I've ever seen or I've ever felt in their reviews. And then you watch it shoot and it's like moving all over the place. And you're just like, I don't think that's very soft. But yeah, I don't think I would spend my money on it. And especially for the money that they're charging for it, there are a lot of good upper receivers at that price. So, yeah. Debating getting one of your uppers or a Ballistic Advantage 12.5. Ballistic Advantage 12.5 upper or a 12.5 barrel, because mine do have 12.5 barrels. So let's see. A rifle is always a rifle. Nobody asked, man. Let's see. Don't forget to happen to pinch down to the lower. What do you enjoy most about building? Just like any sort of skill set. If you like self-improvement, if you like working out and getting stronger, or you like doing something and getting better at it, working on cars, like there's lots of little things. If you enjoy self-improvement in any way, it's just like that. So for me, if I can build it better now, I'm happier with it. If I can make somebody else happy with a good upper receiver, or even just a good value upper receiver, it makes me happy. So pretty simple in that regard. Go to Red Dot for under $100. If I had a true $100 price cap today and I had to buy something today, I believe I could find a Sig Romeo MSR for under $100 today. I think I could do that. And that would probably be the best Red Dot under $100. If that is like a true hard price cap of $100, I think the Sig Romeo MSR is the best one. Probably. Just get a BRN 180. Yeah, I've thought about getting a Brownells, the 180 thing. It looks cool, but again, it's kind of like I'm just not sure if it's worth the money, because when you're spending that much on kind of a novel gun, you're paying pretty close to like top tier AR manufacturer upper receivers. And other than the cool factor, right? Because it is cool and it is different. I'm not super sure that they're worth it in terms of their actual performance. Yeah, Aero Precision, that's exactly. Now, Aero Precision also makes a lot of money off of their own stuff. I am an Aero Precision dealer, so I am a little bit more aware of how much they're actually making this stuff for. So they definitely do make a lot of money off of basically everyone. I did not know that BRN was coming out with one in 7.62 by 39 though, so that is super cool. I mean, it's just as long as the ammunition is cheap and plentiful, like cool, awesome. Chick-fil-A or Popeyes? Popeyes back in the day when I was like a kid, we would go out to Popeyes and I would really like it. But today, if you had to ask me, probably Chick-fil-A. Thoughts on the proposed gun control bills in Washington? Dude, they're so bad. I actually signed up to be on one of their call-ins. Basically, they have to have like an open meeting through Zoom or whatnot. And if I had been up earlier, I probably would have been on it. But do you think the magazine ban will pass this year? Well, it hasn't passed the last 3 years, so probably not. But again, they're going to keep trying until it does. So my long-term plan is not to stay in Washington State. So take that as you will. P320 over Glocks. Not for me. Even if they were both perfectly as reliable, I don't know why I would switch from a Glock to a P320. And have to learn a new set of ergonomics, even though, again, they're very similar. But overall, if you're into Glocks, just keep with the Glock. Glocks are fine. When in doubt, buy them all. Yep, you can do that. You can do that too. MSR it is. What are your feelings on getting a 5.56 barrel versus a 2.23 Wild barrel? So, 2.23 Wild, there's not a real spec for it, so manufacturers kind of have a lot of leeway in what they can do. So, generally speaking, a 5.56 chamber is designed to take a higher amount of pressure than a 2.23 chamber. A 2.23 Wild is a hybrid between the two, in theory giving you slightly better accuracy. Oh, excuse me. I should be tired. It's only 9 o'clock. But really, it's down to the manufacturer, and down to the barrel for a 2.23 Wild. So in general, if you just want to be safe, just get a 5.56 chambering. However, if there is a specific barrel manufacturer that makes a really good 2.23 Wild, then by all means, go for it. And I've used 2.23 Wild barrels plenty of times with no problem. Will your next uppers be 5.56? Yeah, so actually, right next to me, I think I can show uppers on live streams, can't I? Right. So, grab this one. So I have a half dozen Mark 5s. I have 10 Mark 1s, 5 Mark 2s, and 10 Mark 3s that I actually need to build after this live stream. That should be available for purchase this weekend. So we will have a bunch of our 5.56 back in stock. That's what I've been doing for the last couple days, actually. So yes, we will have 5.56 back in. I want the hood chicken Popeyes. Yeah. Yep. Targets have been holding up great. That is glad to hear. Yeah, I mean, it's AR 500 steel is one of the easiest things to do because you just buy AR 500 steel and it's just, it is what it is. It's just strong. So it just performs well. You don't need to do anything to it. You don't need to add anything to it. You paint it, you package it, and it's good to go. Do you think the AFT is going to single-handedly destroy the pistol brace market and turn tens of thousands, millions of non-NFA owners into felons? They would probably love to. I'm not sure how well that would go down politically for them, and they have a midterm coming up, so probably not anytime soon. But yeah, they definitely want to. If they could today, they probably would, but there's probably some sort of political pressure stopping that from happening currently. See you, Richard. Have a good day, man. If I could get a BRN 180 to work with one of the KS47 lowers. Yeah, that would be interesting, because the KS47 actually takes like AK mags, right? So that would be interesting, but I doubt that would work with the BCG on the 180. Would you say your uppers are hard use uppers? So that's always an interesting question. Well, let's grab something real fast. So, right here is one of my barrels. This is a 5.56, 10.5-inch barrel, carbine length gas system. There's no pin in here right now, but this is a soon-to-be pinned gas block, and the barrel is a 4150 chrome moly from Ballistic Advantage. This barrel is probably going to have a lifespan of about 20,000 rounds before you burn it out, again, depending on your shooting cycle, what sort of ammunition you're putting through it, all that sort of fun stuff. The barrels in my upper receivers are very good. They're very basic in terms of their performance. You're going to get close to 1 MOA accuracy with match loads as long as you're doing your part. They're going to last you a very, very long time. We have dimpled barrels. We have high temp thread locker on our gas P screws, as well as they're torqued appropriately, and we have pinned gas blocks. So as far as the barrel units go, those are basically perfect. our BCGs, there's a table over here with like 40 boxes on it. Our BCGs are very basic AO Precision, which is the true mil-spec BCG that is fielded currently in our US M4s. So this is, again, probably what you would consider a hard-use BCG. There's nothing special about it, but it just does everything really well. So as far as all that goes, absolutely. Now, the hand guards that I use are probably the weak point because, again, I'm trying to make my upper receivers be the highest value possible. So we're using more budgety hand guards. So if you were going to be crawling over rocks or jumping in and out of trucks or vehicles or something like that, and you're using like an IR unit or something like that, there's a higher likelihood that these cheaper budget rails will probably bend. However, the core components, the barrel, the BCGs, those are all good to go. I don't try and cheap out on that. Well, I mean, I try and buy the best value stuff, but I don't try and buy subpar components, if that makes sense. And again, everything is fully warranted by me, and I trust the manufacturers of these components. I know them personally. So overall, for most applications, yes. Again, though, the hand guards are probably going to be the weakest component on all of my builds, as that is the more budget area where I can kind of shave off some money to make the price point that I'm trying to make. Good question, though. Can you talk about the gas system and the buffer and spring you used on the Triarch 12.5 build? Yeah. So the gas system on the Triarch 12.5 is a mid-length gas system, which you might think in all cases is going to give you the softest recoiling upper receiver. However, Hop's old upper is behind me with the ALG handguard in it next to the ACR, and that is violently overgassed. That has a .093 gas port size versus the .076 on the Triarch. Now, those numbers sound kind of similar, but remember we're talking about a circle. So a .076 versus a .093. The .093 actually has 50% more maximum flow than a .076 because of the way that circles work. So don't go chasing your gas system length, chase the proper gas port size. Now, for full power military ammunition and for suppressor use, a .076 on the Triarch is a very, very good gas port size. The springs that I was using in it to run steel case ammunition were a carbine buffer, which is the lightest buffer that I generally own. And sometimes I have like an aluminum one just for like a certain application if I have something that's just very undergassed. And then I also was using a old flat wire recoil spring from Strike Industries that had like 10,000 rounds on it. I like the flat wire recoil springs from Strike Industries, but they do tend to wear out faster than like standard carbine springs, which is a small issue. So overall, I like it. I like the Triarch 12.5, you know, for, again, your intended application, your use case, your ammunition that you're going to be using. That's kind of some of the things that you got to juggle around in there. And actually, next Saturday's video is going to be on another custom build with a Criterion 12.5 carbine length. Now, with the carbine length gas system, they went with a .064 gas port size, and that is very small. That will not run steel case. So we did some interesting stuff to that build to get it to run very, very well. All right. Are lightweight BCGs worth it? They are for competition use, for sure. If you're trying to reduce the recoil of your gun, you can reduce the reciprocating mass, which by lightening the BCG in an AR-15 automatically does that. You can slow down the bolt velocity, and there's different things you can do to modulate the end and beginning of the recoil cycle to make it a smoother overall experience. Like on some of the weird bolts out there, like the Surefire optimized, suppressor optimized BCG that really slows down your cycling speed. So there are interesting things you can do for, again, competition or just the lightest shooting AR-15 possible. Like if I had to use a gas gun in a PRS match for some reason, if I was in like a gas gun division or something else like that, you might want to look into that sort of thing because that's going to lower your felt recoil and allow you to keep on target easier, spot your hits, spot your misses at longer range. So for certain applications, absolutely. Do, 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 do. So ballistic advantage handguards are just Aero Precision handguards. There's nothing different between them. They have a different marking on them, but they're all made by Aero Precision. So, um, is what it is. I thought about using Aero's handguards on some of my builds, but they're kind of expensive for what they are, and my brother has one, and it's super thin. So it was not very confidence inspiring. The Fail Zero BCG is really good. So Fail Zero purportedly does a lot of the coatings for other companies, including Toolcraft. So if I buy a Toolcraft nickel boron BCG, it probably has a coating by Fail Zero on it. Edward says, very random, but thoughts on if the government says everyone turn in your weapons, what do I do personally? Personally, very little is what I would do in that circumstance. Would you rather run a 13.7 pin and weld or a 16-inch barrel? A 16-inch barrel is very nice. You get very, very good velocity out of your gun. If you're running a suppressor, you're going to add, that 2.5 inches onto the end of your barrel. It's going to be a little longer, a little heavier, a little less wieldy. A 13.7 really only exists for legality reasons because it is technically the shortest you can get. Pin and weld, still have a 16-inch overall length barrel, so you're not, doing anything NFA or anything like that. In terms of velocity, 13.7s, 14.5s, 16 inches, they're all pretty close. You might be losing 100 FPS on the 13.7 versus the 16-inch, somewhere in that range, depending on your ammunition. For me personally, because I do more close-range shooting, if I had to choose between one or the other, I would almost always go with the 13.7. For you, who, might do longer-range shooting, you might want the 16-inch. It's simpler. You don't have a pinned and welded muzzle device. You can switch your muzzle device at any point in time. So really depends on what you're doing. For me personally, a 13.7 pin and weld is going to be a little shorter, a little nicer, and it's not going to affect me negatively in any way in any of my shooting scenarios. So 13.7 very easily. What's intimidating about building a 80% AR or P80? Now, I've built a P80 Glock, and the most intimidating thing about it is starting. Because once you get started, it's super easy after you're done. Very, very simple type of work that you're doing to like a Glock 80% or something else like that. So really just getting started. Now, an 80% AR is going to take a little bit more work. So that one there I have not done and probably would not do. Unless, you needed to do for other reasons, obviously. But in just terms of ease, like I would just go buy a regular AR lower receiver and call it a day. But again, for certain applications and, privacy and stuff like that, 80% ARs, that can be cool. Primary Arms new micro prism and magnifier. I have their new magnifier in my cart right now on their wholesale website. I haven't bought it yet, though. I might. The magnifier has a ranging chart etched on it, which I haven't seen before. Yeah, so the concept is cool to know what size or how far away your target is, given as long as you have some sort of metric to measure them with. And it doesn't really take up any of the screen, so it is just a straight-up pro. However, do you need it on a red.AR where you're shooting inside of 100 yards? Probably not. But again, for certain applications, if you do want to stretch out to 400 or 500 yards, very helpful. Hell will freeze over before I own a VZ58. I probably wouldn't buy one either, so don't feel bad. Can you do a display on the question you are answering? I wish I could. This is my first time live streaming, and I'm streaming straight from YouTube. I'm not using another program to go to YouTube. If I could, yeah, I would, but I'm just going to have to talk through it. And I don't talk very clearly when I'm in a rush. Sometimes I talk really fast. Would I consider an FDE option for some of my Mark Series uppers? Yes, if I can get the parts, then it's not absorbently more expensive. That's something that I don't want to charge you guys $50, $100 more for just a color. And it doesn't change the performance whatsoever. So it's difficult for me to justify it in terms of value to buy to sell a different color. I know that people like it, and it probably would still sell just fine, but personally, it's just like why would I spend more on just a different color? You know. So Tanner asks a very good question. Your 14.5 complete uppers, can there be different muzzle brakes / flash hiders pin and welded on it so I can run my can on it? Absolutely. Um, when I put them up, there's basically a couple different options. You have a flash hider and you have a muzzle brake option. And if you just comment in the notes on the order selection screen and say, hey, I would like to have this, or send me an email, I will absolutely get that done for you. Probably 30% of my Mark IIIs that I've sold have had a specific muzzle device on them, pinned and welded, or not pinned at all so that they could do it themselves. So yes, that is absolutely an option. Just let me know what you want, and I will get it done for you. So what handguard would you go with on your build that may cost more than what you offer on your upper build? So if I was not building for a price point, and I just wanted a really good durable handguard, it's been really hard to get away from the Midwest Industries combat rails. I think they do a pretty good job, and they're only like the mid $100 range. I think that those are a pretty good value. They have all the features, they're lightweight, they still have enough material to where they're strong. Overall, I do like the Midwest Industries. They make good stuff. So, yeah, and Caesar was right. Midwest Industries, they make good stuff, and they don't charge a ton of money for it. BK Firearms. What is BK Firearms? Let me look them up. I have no idea what BK Firearms is. Pardon me while my Googling skills are on full display. BK Firearms. All right. I would like an upper series with more premium rail in place of the BCG charging handle for your same price. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So, negate the BCG and charging handle and replace those with a better handguard. I could totally do something like that. I like the idea of selling complete uppers just for my own sake. That way there, if I sell somebody a not complete upper receiver and then they throw in their bargain bin BCG and have issues with my upper and then blame my upper for their BCG. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, that is something that we could do. 18-inch pin and weld versus 20-inch for California on a bullpen to get overall 30-inch. Yeah, I've done that before. I had somebody buy something in New Jersey, and he needed like something pinned on to his 18-inch barrel, and I did it for him. You know, it's no problem. I didn't charge him for it because I had it here, so I just did it. You know, no problem. Do you need a heater? Yes, I do need a heater. It is very cold in here, but it has a little bit of a hiss because it's a propane heater, so I turned it off. I'm short and stocky, so same. So the 13.7 might be a little bit easier for me, at least. That's my excuse for me to buy one. Yeah, no, 13.7s are cool. That's why I am going to, oh dear. Rip AMA rails. AMA rails? Who's AMA rails? I don't know. Somebody on here is spamming. Damn it. I hate that. Yeah, 13.7s are great. That's why I'm going to be offering them. How do we buy an upper from you? Well, if you go to my website, Focus Shooting LLC, you will see that everything is out of stock because I have to this weekend. So tonight, I'm probably going to stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning building them. And then tomorrow morning, I'll finish whatever I haven't built. And then we'll go out and we'll test fire everything. After they're test fired and they pass their test firing, that's when they go up for sale. Until that point, I don't put anything up. I don't pre-sale usually. I did one, but I really don't like doing that. Things get very complicated. So until they are all certified, good to go, nothing gets shipped. So tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, they could be up on the website, Focus Shooting LLC. For a 5.56 that is piston or short stroke and takes AR mags, would you go BRN, Bren 2, SIG MCX, or something else? ACR every day. That is, yeah, the ACR behind me. That one there I recently bought, which is a short stroke piston system. Excellent gun. Basically a precursor to the MCX in some ways. but I would take it over the MCX or Bren 2, not because it's better, but because I like it more. So to be clear, how is the Bear Creek Arsenal 7.62x39 upper going so far? I'm looking to get it at some point. 7.62x39 from Bear Creek Arsenal, the one right behind me. Actually, might be able to grab that for you. Let's see if YouTube kills the stream. So this is the 7.62x39 side charging upper receiver from Bear Creek Arsenal. Tomorrow's video is on me taking this upper receiver out to, or sorry, taking it literally out of the box. So we open up the box on camera and I just run it for about 300 rounds. That's tomorrow's video. That's all we've done. Since then, I went ahead and took it out to 500 yards, which you will see on today's Instagram post. It's doing really well. It's very, very accurate. There are lots of little minor things on here. And something that we will talk about, actually, since we mentioned it earlier, about how Bear Creek Arsenal cuts corners, is look at the handguard. So we have just basically huge spaces where it's just extruded aluminum and no machining is done whatsoever. So there's not very much machining that's going on into their handguards. To keep them very simple, very inexpensive, the mounting system is literally, they just cut holes in it and then it's bolted to the barrel nut, which needs to be timed, and they timed this one improperly. But that's for tomorrow's video. The upper receiver, this is basically just a chunk of aluminum. There's not a lot of machining going on here, so it's very heavy, but it's very fast to machine, so they don't need to charge a crap ton of money for it. Now, actually, I can't get it out right now, but I can show you the BCG probably. So the BCG has these really square, angular cuts, and that's because squares and straight lines are easier to machine than curves. So on a lot of other BCGs, you'll see like curves and stuff like that. On the BCA guns, not so much. Again, that just allows them to produce more parts per hour, cut down on machining time, cut down on machining costs. But overall, it's doing well. Hasn't had any issues. All right. All these people asking about guns, how are you holding up, buddy? I'm doing well. It's been a really good year. January was my second best month ever in terms of focus shooting LLC. And that was in January, right? So usually would be one of the worst months of the year. Did pretty well. Personally, I'm doing well. My wife is pregnant with our second child. My first child, Bruce, is 18 months in a couple days. So overall, going very, very well. Oh, also, I might as well bring this up. Today, I accepted a new position. So for those of you who don't know, I do have a full-time job. I am actually a forklift operator for Penske Logistics. But I accepted a new position within the industry, and I will be working for a marketing agency that you guys will be very familiar with when it actually gets like fully announced and stuff starts rolling. But I will be making a lot more videos for you guys on a different channel. Yeah, so a new job just came through today. So overall, it's going really, really well. What are your thoughts on head spacing uppers? Needed? Head spacing is needed if you're using subpar components. I have personally, in many hundreds of builds, have never needed it done. So depending on what you're doing, if you're using old parts or weird parts, sure. But overall, probably not. What's my dream build? Dream AR build, probably a 13.7 pin and weld, chrome line barrel, BCG, just something high quality, Geisley rail, whatever sort of muzzle device accepts my suppressor at the time. You know, I'm pretty simple when it comes to AR-15s. I'm not super particular. I'll run just about anything. Any experience with the Agilite K19 plate carrier? None at all. Never even heard of that. I had a pin and welded dead air 3-port brake come off on me today in my Sandman K. Pin wasn't drilled into the threads deep enough. Oh, that's no fun. Who did your pin and weld? Hopefully it wasn't me. If something ever did happen like that on one of my builds, just send it back and I would fix that for you. Oh, Beretta ARX, the fish looking gun. Yeah, that's a awkward looking gun, but probably pretty fun to shoot. Can you do any more videos with your PSA 20-inch A2 style upper? I just love that style of upper. For sure. We might do another like budget build with like an A2 or like an A2 improved or something like that in the future. So absolutely. If YouTube gives troubles on streaming, is there a place to fall back to? Locals, yeah. I'm not a fan of the guy who created locals. If I'm thinking of the same person, so probably not. But other apps or websites for sure. Your BCA 20-inch video is the reason I bought one. Best $600 M16A4 clone ever. Yeah, it's a good build for a budget. You know, it's fun. Blue collar EDC. Yes, you are correct. It's what I try and do. Possibility of focus shooting carry affordable, good quality optics. You know, I thought about it because I am a distributor for certain and set up as like a dealer for certain optic companies. And I've thought about offering them on the website or like combo deals. But things just become more and more complicated. And again, this is just me. Like, I'm the only person who runs this. So pretty soon I'm going to be having to produce like 4 videos a week full time. And I'm going to be, you know, managing Focus Shooting LLC on top of that. So, you know, managing more and more inventory and more options, it just gets really, really difficult. Forklift certified, yes I am. Based in Red Pill. Based in Fork Pilled. Congratulations, I'm currently waiting my third. Well, congratulations, Theodore. Congrats. No, not Leviathan, Hop. Leviathan, no, that's not for me, my man. Space User, congrats on the kit, thank you. 308, 18-inch, or 6.5 Grendel 12.5. Well, for me, I would go with the 6.5 Grendel 12.5 because, again, as I've stated, most of my shooting is up close, inside of 300 yards. So an 18-inch 308 is bigger, heavier, harder to control, very effective. But a 12.5-inch 6.5 Grendel, for what it's doing, is a similar level or an acceptable level of performance inside that sort of envelope. So not bad. Yeah, no Leviathan group for me. This is completely different. I'm mostly going to be doing a media production type thing. That's what I'm going to be doing, is reviewing products just like I do now, but for a different company on top of what I'm doing now. So no paid stuff. Yeah. Sylvan Arms folder. I have heard very good and bad things about it. So I know that it is cheaper than the Law Tactical, and I know that they're on like the 3rd or 4th gen already, which usually, when you see a company come out with a Gen 1 and then a Gen 2, and then a Gen 3 and Gen 4, like really close together, probably because those earlier generations had problems that they're trying to fix quickly and then still bring as much product to market as possible. Not something that I am a big fan of. So, I mean, is it good? Maybe. I just haven't had any experience with it. And again, I've heard good and bad things. Oh, just a random kid who found out Well, you actually found out that he could not weld, is what you're trying to say. Not that he could weld. What's your go-to lower? I think most of my lowers are PSA, to be honest. Just because they're cheap and they're affordable and they've worked. I have PSA, I have Anderson. The only ones that I've ever had issues with are Andersons. I've had some of their trigger pin holes drilled a little bit too big, like a half thou or a thou, which means that the trigger pins will walk under normal recoil. So, and then I just add in like anti-rotation pins, and I don't have a problem anymore. Overall, though, you want to get a good quality lower receiver that's machine to mill spec, or if you want an enhanced feature like a flared magwell, Aero Precision makes a really good lower receiver, you know, and they don't charge too much money for it. Once you start getting into the $100 plus range of lower receivers, unless it's doing something special like ambidextrous or some of the weird button controls that are really nice, once you're starting to pay more than $100, unless you're getting good features for it, I would probably say no, just stick to more inexpensive, good quality lower receivers. 6.8 SPC. Again, 6.8 SPC is kind of still in that same weird category where 6.5 Grendel is, where yes, the bullet is very capable, but you're not really giving it enough speed to do what it needs to do. So it's kind of in an odd category. Now, 3,000 FPS with 85 grain bullets out of a 6.8 SPC, that I have not heard of. Although that sounds like with the 6.8 SPC, that's got to be like a really short, fat guy with like a really low BC. But again, for close range hunting, it could be good. Arisaka scope mounting lever tool. No, I do the self leveling with scopes. So what I mean by that is I just adjust until it looks good, and I torque down, and then I forget about it. Not necessarily that's how you should do it, especially if you're doing like long range precision stuff. But you know, it is what it is. Love Arrow, best mid-tier company in my opinion. Yeah, I mean they make really decent stuff and they charge a decent price for it. You know, for me they're in a category of not special because they don't charge great money for great products and they don't charge like super cheap like value stuff. They're just kind of like good, you know, but they're not. There's nothing really exciting about them. So, you know, for me, it's. I like to be at either end of that spectrum. Either they're a good product at a very very good price, and that's really cool because it has a great value to it, or it's a top tier product and it's just a top tier product, you know, and you're paying for that top tier product. I like to be at either end of that spectrum, but Air Position again, they are a perfectly good mil spec, not necessarily mil spec, but you know, mid-tier company. William bought one of my 14.5 quads, and he says it's flawless. So thank you. Of course it is. No, actually, funny story. A couple of the welds I did mess up, or not mess up, but they just weren't very pretty. One of them happens to be Hop's upper, but I gave him a discount on his, so I hope he's happy with that. Congrats on 30K. Thank you, Ruben. Yeah, M4E1s. The M4E1 upper is the one without the forward assist, right? That's fine. You know, you don't really need a forward assist. I like it. Other people don't. It's fine. What do I think of 300 Blackout? I think if you have the ammunition and you shoot suppressed quite a bit, I think it's awesome. No problems with it whatsoever. When I was running 300 Blackout, the only thing I didn't like about it was how expensive it was to shoot. That's it, you know. Other than that, I don't really like 300 Blackout Supersonic because if I was doing that, I would just go 7.62 by 39 for a quarter of the price. But you know, subsonic 300 Blackout, very quiet. You are getting basically pistol effectiveness though, so don't think it's the best thing ever. Bedside. What do I keep bedside? So generally, I can't show it on screen, which is really annoying. But generally, I have a Glock 17 Gen 3 with a comp and a red dot and a light next to me at all times. It's basically within 3 feet of me at any point, at any time, really. So if you ever hang out with me or meet me in person, you will probably be very close to that gun. 9x18 is greater than 300 Blackout. 9x18. 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 What's 9x18? Do you mean 9x39, the Russian 9x39? Because that's cool. Obviously, it's just a bigger version of 300 Blackout. The same kind of concept as 8.6 Blackout. Though 8.6 Blackout has a big enough bullet to do a lot of different things. Overall, you know, not something that I'm really going to be using, though. The LA6920 Colt OEM. No furniture. Are they good to go? You know, I've heard bad things about the new Colts. So they've really outsourced a lot of their production to different companies. I've heard that Roscoe is doing a lot of their barrel manufacturing, and they're getting a lot of their smaller components from other companies. So overall, if you're buying a Colt, you're not really buying a Colt. You know, modern Colts, I should say. Older Colts, in-house Colts, they did some really cool stuff back in the day. But right now, they're just okay. All right. M4E1 can come with or without the forward assist. Oh, I did not know that. Well, if there's a difference in price, I would, yeah, 9x39. I thought that's what you meant. Yeah, 9x18 is like 9x18 Makarov, right? Right? That's the weird pistol caliber. Yeah, but 9x39 is cool. It's just a bigger 300 Blackout. Again, I still wouldn't really run Supersonic 9x39. I just, I'm not sure what the point of that is, really, because you're not getting that good of velocities off that sort of thing. But subsonic, 9x39, bigger bullet, better long-range trajectory, if I'm not mistaken. Also, again, carries more more momentum, more weight behind it, more power at more distance. So if you can take it, or if you can find it, and a gun that shoots it, good to go. Your dream DMR build. So by DMR, designated marksman's rifle, when you say that, I'm thinking of something that's not necessarily super mobile, so I don't really care about weight. So I'm probably going to go with an 18 or a 20 inch with like a SOCOM profile barrel, so fairly heavy profile, not like a bull barrel, but fairly heavy. Rail, once again, we can go with like a Geisley 15 inch or something else like that. Atlas bipod on it. Optics, I'm actually going to go with something like the mid-range, like a 3 to 12, like the Primary Arms GLX 3 to 12 with like the ACSS Griffin reticle. Or I think that's the one, the Griffin Mill. They have a lot of different reticle names, but one of those. I think that would be a really good setup for like a mid to long range, inside of 600-700 yards DMR, 5.56. Or actually, if we're just picking any caliber in this scenario, probably 6mm arc. Yeah, 9x18 is Makarov. 9x19 because it's what I can get. Yeah, I feel that. 300 Blackout can blow up a 5.56 upper. Well, it can, but you can blow up a 5.56 upper in many ways. I don't want to pay to get an optic cut. IDKY, that $100 price tag keeps me up at night. I assume you're talking about pistols. Yeah, I'm the opposite of that. So if a gun, I have to review a gun, actually. It's the, what's the gun? It's the Lone Wolf LTD 19. They sent it out to me through a marketing agency, Cavalier Advertising down in Oregon. And I have to review that gun, but it doesn't come with an optics cut. So I have to tell people that like it's a good gun, don't buy it basically because it doesn't have an optics cut, and I personally wouldn't buy it without an optics cut. And they make it with an optics cut, and I asked for the optics cut, but they're going to do that later on, I think. So kind of in a weird spot with that. But personally, I wouldn't buy a handgun without an optics cut because a red dot is just so much more effective and more accurate and easier to use, especially if you get used to it, than iron sights, in my personal opinion. Not that iron sights aren't usable. Favorite flash hider, A2. A2 is, if you don't need anything special, just get an A2 flash hider, especially on slightly longer builds. You don't have any of that annoying pinging sound. It's not overly long or heavy or expensive, and it does a decent job of vertical recoil mitigation and reducing flash on longer barrels. Shorter barrels, you're going to need something like a Surefire 3-prong or your Strike Industries Venoms like I sell. Because you're going to get that better flash mitigation, though you are going to be sacrificing that annoying pinging sound. They're going to be a little more expensive, a little heavier, that sort of thing. Would I consider a review of the SIG Bravo series? I find them to be exceptional optics, even though they are heavy. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the Prism optics from SIG. Like they have a 3X and a 5X. I've looked at them. And again, it's one of those things that if it doesn't really appeal to me, so I'm not sure how much it appeals to everyone, though I'll take your word for it that they're good. I'm not going to cut your I'm not going to cut your slide. I do not have the tools or the know-how for that, and you would not want that slide back. What barrel profile do I prefer? That depends, because, where did I put that? On a 10.5-inch barrel, it really doesn't matter to me what the profile is. So this is technically a government profile. So you have a fairly thin taper in the center, 7.50 gas block journal, and then on a government profile, depending on the length, you're going to have different step downs. So you have your first step down to a 0.7, 0.65, and then of course your 1/2x28 threads. On a 10.5, I could not care less what the barrel profile is, if it's a government, because, this extra weight out here is very, very little. It's like 1 or 2 ounces. I think Geisley has a slightly thinner forward profile, but again, you're only saving like 1 ounce. And I'm not the type of guy in my shooting that cares about like 1 ounce. So government profile works just fine. The only profile that I really don't like is the M4 profile because it has the cut for the M203 grenade launcher, if I'm not mistaken. And unless you own one, which is very cool, unless you own one, probably don't need that sort of thing. So I like simple is good. So government profile, fairly simple. Straight tapers are fairly simple. If you want a super accurate gun, you're going to need a heavier, thicker profile. In general, will reduce the harmonics and the variation between shot to shot. So overall, it doesn't really matter, just that it's appropriate for whatever sort of barrel length that you're going for. Personally, on 10.5s, 11.5s, and 12.5s, government is just fine because you're not. It is a little heavier further out, but because you're using a shorter barrel, it kind of negates that weight further out. On longer barrels, you are going to get a little bit more front heavy because you're going to not only going to have that more weight further out, but of course because that barrel is longer, you're also sticking that weight further out, giving it more leverage upon your body. So overall, which one? Whichever one works the best for your given circumstance. What flashlight do you use? I generally carry the Surefire G2X tactical. For guns, like on a couple of the guns back there, they should have a Streamlight HLX, the rail mount version. So it's 1,000 lumens, 27,000 candela. Really decent. You can find them for around $100, so not bad. Do you need some coffee? No, not really. I feel good. I have a Monster over here that I'm just drinking because I like the flavor of it. This is the Ultra Watermelon. Overall, I feel fine. But in terms of flashlights, if you're looking for something that's like really cheap and you can mount to a rifle, you can actually mount a Surefire G2X Tactical to your rifle with a 1-inch mount, which I have done, and they work just fine inside of like 50, 75 yards. If you want to punch out a little bit further, you're going to need more candela. So kind of the baseline for me for lights on a rifle is going to be your Streamlight HLX, the 1,000 lumen version. And those you can find for about $100. They come with a regular push button tail cap and with a tail switch. I have 2 of them, or I've had like 5, but I have 2 of them currently. One of the tape switches died. So I'm using that in just a push button configuration. The tape switches aren't great, but again, they're included. So for the money, it's pretty decent. Yeah, legit Colt ones are very, very expensive. You are absolutely correct about that. Superlative Arms. Actually, we have something here from Superlative Arms. Do you mess with adjustable gas blocks on your rifles or no? Was always against them. Another thing that can break, which is very true. Experimenting with the first one from Superlative Arms. So I generally like upper receivers to be able to run whatever I put through them, and if they're a little hotter than they need to be, I will just deal with it or throw in a little bit heavier buffer or spring. In certain builds, you're not really going to be able to get away with that. Certain applications, you're going to need something that can modulate the amount of gas coming into your system for a variety of different circumstances. So if you need an adjustable gas block for, let's say it's an AR-10, and you're going to be running anything from steel case to brass cased, suppressed, and unsuppressed, to get that gun running well and so it's not breaking itself apart, you might need an adjustable gas block. So on the criterion that we'll talk about next week, we will have a discussion on a adjustable gas block that we used on that upper receiver. That adjustable gas block, I think works really well, and we tested it quite a bit. So I think it's a good option. The Superlative Arms, I have not tested their adjustable gas blocks. However, here we have one of their piston kits. So we are actually going to be trying. This is their .750 clamp-on piston kit. So this will actually change your DI gun into a piston setup. So it comes with their bolt carrier, actually just their carrier, not the bolt, the cam, firing pin, or firing pin retainer, which is kind of annoying for the money that they pay for this. This is like, well, what did I pay for it? $250 for it. I think it's a little more expensive if you guys went out to buy it today. But this is the mid-length version of it, and we are going to be trying that out from Superlative Arms and see how that does. So that will be put on a gun. We might put it on Hop's gun, because actually what we're going to be using Hop's gun for is basically on how to fix an overgassed gun, because Hop's gun is ridiculous in terms of how much gas is coming into the system. So let's go back for a second. Have you heard of the Sig Sauer Tango MSR 1-6x24? Sig's budget 1-6. If so, your thoughts. My thoughts on it are the specs on it look very, very good. It has a 1x of 124 feet, a field of view at 1x of 124 feet, which is huge. Very, very big. That is the same as This Vector Continental, this is a much more expensive 34 millimeter main tube German glass Chinese manufactured optic. This is a weird one. This also has a field of view of 124 feet at 1x, and that SIG Tango, which again I'm going to be getting my hands on soon, hopefully, has. But I've also heard that the 1x on it is abysmally bad. So maybe they're getting that 124 feet of field of view, but they're making it really warped and fisheye at that 1x. So I would be a little bit hesitant on it overall, just a little bit hesitant. All right. Some people have Nemos, others have a BCA with the M203. Make your choice. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be really funny to put like a $5,000 accessory on your $200 upper receiver. Just like cut out the rail in certain places so you can attach the M203 and just make it look janky as you can. He has a G2X on his AK and it works great. Yeah, the G2X tactical version, which is the only two modes, or actually only one mode, which is what you want because it's simple, so you're not going to mess something up. Is the Hansen profile just thicker at the chamber? No, I believe, if I remember correctly, the Hansen profile is a slightly thinner taper in the front and back, and instead of a .750 gas block journal, it's using a .625, if I remember correctly. See, on the government profile, you don't have a lot of chamber support up here. One thing about the Criterion barrel that we will talk about is this thicker section actually got pushed forward like a whole inch. So you had a lot more chamber support and a lot more rigidity at the base of your barrel. So, but you're going to pay for that with a little more weight. Of course, they're doing that to get you as much accuracy as they can out of it. You can buy an HLX with an air socket mount direct from air socket for about $160. Yeah, the mount probably is worth the extra cost for sure. And then you could get just an aftermarket tail switch and you'd probably be very happy with that setup. Suggestions for where to get affordable ammo. So what I use is a website called Ammo Seek, and usually on that website you can just type in whatever caliber that you're looking for and it will provide you a list of the best prices online at that time. So that website that I use is called Ammo Seek. A lot of the places where I get my ammo from is like Global Ordnance, SG Ammo, and a couple others. I also bought 1,000 rounds from DSA Arms. I might get another 1,000 rounds of their SDI M193, which is Indian-made M193. It's okay. From what I've seen some videos on it, it does pretty well. Hop says, the only thing my old upper should be used for is firewood. No, it's overall, it's not bad. So the ALG handguard is nice for certain things. The SAA bolt carrier, they used to charge a lot of money for their stuff. My brother actually has a very old custom build using SAA stuff back when he built his first AR. Overall though, no, it's probably still better than like half of the budget builds out there, even though it's miserably overgassed. Very curious about the SA Piston kit. Yeah, me too. I haven't put it on anything yet, and I haven't shot anything with it. So it's either going to go on Hop's gun for testing, or it's going to go on something else. I'll have to build something else out. But the reason I might not use it for Hop's video is because Hop's video will be how to reduce recoil. And with a piston system, you are increasing your reciprocating mass because you're adding a steel rod that is now banging back and forth. So there are ways to mitigate it, but generally speaking, you are increasing your recoil. All right. Short 300 blackout. It is possible. Yes. Basically anything in an AR-15 platform or AR-10 platform, if you're like, hey, is John going to make this at some point in the future? Probably. The answer is probably. Now, okay, so what's coming next is I have a bunch of marks off to my right that I need to test and then get up on the website. Then after that, we're going to be doing an AR-10 line of upper receivers, and we're going to be doing a pro line of upper receivers based on the Roscoe 13.7 purebred, with the optional pin and weld of a Sons of Liberty Gunworks Knox. After that, obviously more marks, just regular base mark series. We'll work on some other special runs and stuff like that. What gas mitigation techniques do you use for running suppressed? My favorite one is, let's see if I can get that. I have a bunch of garbage around here if somebody just wanted to talk about odd stuff. but I'm trying to get out of my tool tray. Oh, it's not in here. What? Ah. I had my suppressor in here. I thought I did. I wonder where that's at, actually. I should probably find that. It's actually on my suppressor. The baffles are basically gone. So the back pressure over time has gotten less and less. So that is my favorite gas mitigation technique for running suppress. Just blow out your baffles and you're good to go. You get a lot up your nose when you fire suppressed. Well, try heavier buffers, heavier springs, and yeah, as far as that goes, that's the simplest thing you can do. After that, you're really stuck with a better charging handle that can mitigate a little bit, an adjustable gas block, or an adjustable BCG, or something else that I'm going to be trying soon is a gas tube with a smaller hole. And that's what actually I think what is going to work the best for hops upper receiver. First before last, no? Yes. SG ammo is good. Rubber City Armories, yeah, that was one of them. Adjustable gas blocks or gas keys on my Toolcraft 308 PCGs work great. Cheap, easy to adjust without a long-ass Allen key under my handguards. Yeah, that's one of my problems with having an adjustable gas block with no way to adjust it from the outside, is you either have to take the handguard off or you have to like run something down the handguard to adjust the gas block, which is kind of annoying. So Criterion barrels are excellent. You know, yeah, they're good. They make good stuff. They're accurate. They're properly manufactured. They have their own in-house profiles, chrome lined, proper materials. Not bad. Expensive. You're paying for it, but they're good. My PSA upper won't shoot steel case. The case gets stuck in the chamber. Can you explain why that happens? So, this can happen for two drastically different reasons. One, your gun could be undergassed and your bolt carrier group is not getting enough gas to remove the steel case from your chamber. Steel cases generally are a little bit rougher to extract than brass because they expand when they get really hot and they contract, but not quite as much as brass does. Brass is much more malleable in that way, which is why it's the preferred casing for, you know, high quality mil-spec ammunition. Steel case, especially when you load steel case hot, gets very hot and contracts a little bit and kind of gets stuck there. So you could either not have enough gas to run that steel case out, or you could have so much gas and the extractor is just slipping off the rim because, again, that steel case is harder to extract. So I've had it both ways. I've had it where the gun was undergassed and not having enough to rip out the steel case ammunition. And I've also had it where it was overgassed and it was marring up the rim of the case. Now, an easy way to check for this is to look at the rim of your steel case, the stuck steel case, pop it out, look at the rim of it, and see if you have issues with that. Because I've actually had a PSA upper that had that exact same thing because it was violently overgassed, that the amount of force pushing backwards on the bolt carrier group was actually overriding the amount of force on the extractor. So instead of grabbing the case rim and pulling it out, the extractor was just still following the path of least resistance, and it was easier for it to go over top the rim of the case than to actually pull that case out of the upper receiver, or out of the barrel. So it can be a couple different things. You might have to look into that. When are we getting a Hop and Focus crossover? If Hop wanted to do long range shooting, we could go out to Capitol Forest here in Washington. It's probably a long drive for him, but we probably could do something long range related if we wanted to. Really interested to know about the gassing on those 13.7 purebreds. Yeah, me too. And gassing for me at this point is like really easy. If I port or just check the gas port size on a barrel, I can tell you how it's going to perform basically. I'm assuming they will be good. What arm W? I don't know what that means. Was that Vector Continental 1-6 or 1-10? This is the 1-6 model. We already did one on the Constantine 1-10. This one is a huge mixed bag. It does some things very, very good and other things very bad. And it's like $600. So it's competing with things like the Vortex Viper, which is like my favorite LPBO, especially in this price range. So it'll be a mixed bag for sure of a video. It does some things very well, and other things absolutely not. Review will be coming eventually. Yeah, Black River Tactical, that's the one. The not adjustable gas tubes, but just the smaller tubes. They use a smaller hole on the bottom of it. Should I want held for review? Oh, let's see. Are carbon fiber barrels worth the premium? Really depends on your application. If you need to shave weight and maintain rigidity for a certain application, whether that's PRS, hunting, um, or just target shooting, and you don't like heavy guns, sure. For most people, I would absolutely say no. So that is my very simple opinion on carbon fiber in almost every way. Carbon fiber is incredibly expensive when used properly. It does offer some benefits, but for 95% of people, they don't need those benefits. So what carbon fiber does, it does really well, but it's a very, very niche application within the firearms industry. So almost never would I recommend something with carbon fiber, again, unless you're in a very niche set of people. Yeah, that's what this was, just to answer questions, man. So I just try to see what people want to talk about. I brought a lot of gear out here, so I have literally all the parts for my Mark series.